So, welcome everyone to another episode of our Ellie Talks podcast, the podcast for your insight into the world of sustainable textiles. My name is Jolien Roedolf, founder of Ariadne Innovation and your host for the podcast today. With Ariadne Innovation, we aim to inspire, inform, connect the textile industry towards more sustainability and today, in more particular, circularity. So today we talk about a topic, I think it has been mentioned already a lot in our talks, circular economy, which is really important. And we want to look at the topic from a different angle. Being, the role of the local reuse centers, kringwinkels as we know them, and their role that they can play in the circular transition. So therefore, I'm very happy to welcome our guest of today, Jolien Roedolf, who is here today from Herw. And you are, if I read correctly, business development responsible for social and circular entrepreneurship. Wow, what a great title, and you are our guest speaker for today. So, Jolien, can you maybe introduce yourself to our guests today?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Julie, for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here on the podcast, and I will excuse myself beforehand for my Flemish English, but let's try. So I'm Jolien. I'm from Leuven, but currently living in Ghent, and that's where I try to spread the social circular message as much as possible.
That's great to hear. So you are working for Herw, which is, I think, quite unknown to our listeners. Can you maybe explain a little bit what Herw is doing?
Yeah, of course. So Herw is actually the collective of social circular entrepreneurs. And Herw, in English, it means to regain. So I looked it up what it was. And I think you can describe our mission in three pillars. And I think the first pillar is to regain talents. So it means that our members who are associated with Herw, they exist to give people a job, to give people who otherwise would have difficulties to find a job because they don't speak the language yet, or because they have a certain kind of past or social psychological problems. That's why our members exist, to give them useful jobs and to give them support also and tailor-made functions. So that's the first pillar, it's the social employment. The second regaining is we want to regain materials. So while creating jobs, we also are doing this in a circular way. Because we saw like some years ago when we started that actually these social jobs, these are often very manual labor also. And this is also a pillar that is associated with circular economy because, for example, repairing stuff, sorting stuff, collecting stuff, these are all jobs that are very good for social economy. So that's our second pillar. We had regaining talent, regaining material. And the third one is regaining also social contacts, because our members are also offering services to people who otherwise would have difficulties with paying for stuff. For example, we have our social restaurants who always offer a social tariff for people to come and have a good meal at a very low price.
Yeah.
And so at Herw, you cannot decouple us from our members, so we exist through our members, and the goal of Herw is enforcing these members in a political way also. We represent them as a sector federation, and at the other side, and that's also a bit more my job, is also enforcing them in their entrepreneurial activities, because they also all have a business model where they generate a certain kind of value, and that's where we help them undertaking circular activities too.
Okay, that's great to hear, and I love the fact that you match the social and the circular way, which are both very important, I think, for our future generations. So I wanted to zoom in also a little bit about Jolien as a person and your responsibility at Herw. You already talked a little bit about it, so I'm going to repeat it. It's business development for social and circular entrepreneurship. So that's amazing. Can you maybe tell us something about how it is to work at Herw and your day-to-day job?
Yeah, of course. So business development, when I started at Herw, it's like 2 years and a half now already. Actually, I'm the first business development person for Herw. So for me, it was in the beginning like a really a playground because I could experiment a lot. I had like a description of tasks, but it was not really very concrete, so I could do really with the function what I wanted. And so today, I think my function is really about innovation also. Like for example, yesterday we had a meeting about the project management, about our new project we are doing for Kringwinkel, about a new digital platform. Today I'm talking to you, and I'm also really involved in innovation projects to write them, to find the right partners also within our network, and to make a network, to network externally too. Because if you want to make a change, a circular change, you need a lot of partners, you need a lot of network, and that's also a bit my job to see that we can connect the dots within the sector, but also outside of the sector.
Mm-hmm. Great to hear that it's not, a traditional business, but that the innovation aspect is also very important. So is this something where you have always been interested in, this social circular entrepreneurship, or was it just an opportunity that came at hand?
I have to say the circular part and the sustainability part, that's always something that was in me. Like I was already applying sustainability in my personal life, and then I got a job at a corporate company, and then I started to see like, Ellie, maybe I do not really see the point often of what I'm doing, and then I want to do something more now for society also. And then at one time, I read the book Donut Economics by Kate Raworth, and that completely changed my life because then I finally saw like, okay, this is what I want to be doing every day, every week.
Eating donuts then?
Yeah, not eating donuts, but actually, Kate, that would also be a very nice job. But Kate describes that we have to switch our model from a linear economic model where growth is really the core to like a donut model. And this donut model, you really have to picture a donut for you, and we have to see that everyone is in the middle of this donut. This means that we have to have a social layer where everyone has enough food, where there's housing, where there's jobs, so everyone has his basic needs and is within the middle of the donut. But then we have to see that the economy stays also within the donut and doesn't go beyond, because then we go beyond our planetary boundaries. So actually, she matches the social and the circular, the environmental parts within each other. And so that's when I saw it like, okay, this is what I really wanted to do. And then I checked on a job website, and I saw the vacancy for Herw in business development, and I was always really intrigued by new things. I have to be fed by new project, new ideas, new stuff, and so it was like business development. And I read the description. I was like, okay, it's a bit love at first sight. Yeah. I first did not apply because it was like I lived in Leuven and it was in Ghent. I was like, no, I'm not gonna sit on a train for 1 hour and 10 minutes every day. But then after a week, I couldn't put it out of my head. I applied, and then now I'm here.
That's great, and we're very happy to have you here as well. And I love the book, The Donut Economy, as well. Maybe it's an interesting idea to launch it on Ellie.Connect as well. I'm referring to Florence, so the rest of our users on the platform can have a look at it as well, as we are approaching our holidays. So as you explained, Herw is really the kind of the umbrella over the reuse centers, these Kringwinkels. They deal with a large variety of products, right? So we're focusing specifically on textiles, but you're also working with electrical equipment, furniture, fashion, of course, mattresses, carpets. So before we deep dive into the topic of textiles, can you maybe scope a little bit what role Kringwinkel plays in the textile and fashion landscape of today here in Belgium?
Yeah, of course. So the Kringwinkel in Flanders, our mission statement is maximal local reuse in Flanders. So actually, what are we today? I still remember that when I went 2 years back for my first visit behind the screens at the Kringwinkel, I thought like, okay, I give something, so we take donations and we then resell them so they can have a second life. And the first time I visited one of the centers, I always thought like, okay, I give something to the Kringwinkel and the next day it is being sold, okay, and that's it. But then I visited a Kringwinkel with one of the directors and my mouth literally fell open, because actually what is the Kringwinkels? It's like huge distribution centers. It's like places where there's sorting lines, where all the donations come in, where there's people who are checking everything that comes in. So the first check is really rough sorting. Like if you come with a box to the Kringwinkel, they will check like, okay, is it textiles, toys, is it electronics? And then it goes to the correct sorting line. And then they will check for quality. And that's a really important one because that's when we check, okay, what is still reusable and what is not. Because we check for stains, for odors, for other criteria. And then we're also going to repair what is possible to repair. And then afterwards, we have the reusable products, and we will give these products a second life through our channels. Today, it's all physical channels. Maybe in the future, I will also have a digital channel to do reuse with. And so, yeah, I think of us as a crucial step in this circular economy, as we are at the middle of the chain. When you have a T-shirt and you're tired of this T-shirt, but actually it's still a good T-shirt, you cannot find your friends or family who are interested in this T-shirt. You can always go to Kringwinkel, donate it. We give it a second life, and the third objective is, so we create shops with this, we give a second life to stuff, and we also make sure that everyone can buy good qualitative products at a fair price.
So this is a calling to donate
clothing.
Bring it
to the
right point to Kringwinkel located nearby.
Exactly.
So we talked about the Flemish, the Belgian perspective, but are there any similar organizations in the rest of Europe? Because we're working with the European textile and fashion industry. Are you also communicating to them or seeing? Can you maybe explain the European landscape as well?
Yeah, of course. So we are Herw, so we are the Flemish part. But there's also like a European Herw that is called Reuse, and that is the federation for...
It is called Reuse.
It is actually called Reuse.
That's simple.
Indeed, it's very clear. And they do the European federation. So they group actually all the Herwins together. And it's actually quite interesting because I noticed that there's now a dynamic also in Europe around this. Because next week, for example, I have to talk on a webinar for the Croatian government who wants to do something similar as Herw is doing now in Flanders. So I feel that there's like a movement going on there.
Yeah. That's great. The connection between European countries is important, sharing the ideas. But we will come back on the topic of cooperation later. So the topic of today we will touch upon is circular economy. Maybe for the listeners who are not yet familiar with this term, if you look online, circular economy is built upon the idea to eliminate textile waste by retaining maximum value out of raw materials via innovative textile design, adopting new technologies, and choosing for renewable materials. But it's a very broad concept and often explained in a different way when you ask different people, the definition of circular economy. So can you maybe explain to our listeners what circularity is for you?
Yeah, indeed, circular economy is a very broad concept. But I think for me, what is the most speaking definition is really thinking in circles. So that's also what I'm trying to do. Yeah. Again, we are with the donuts, but really thinking in circles. Like if you put any material or product on the market or into the kringloop at the circle. Okay, how can I make sure that this is being used as long as possible? So prolonging the longevity of a product. And if it's really not possible anymore to use this, okay, how can I make sure that the product becomes a material again so that it can come back into the circle afterwards? And I think for us at Kringwinkel, it's also very important at circular economy that it's also focused on the inner circle. That's what we always say. Because you have the hierarchy in circular economy where you check, okay, in first place, we can maybe refuse to bring something on the market. Maybe you don't need the extra t-shirt. And then you have the redesign, like how can we make sure that our products are designed in this way that they can be used for a long time, or that they are that they can be reused or repaired afterwards, because that is something that we as Kringwinkel is also a big challenge. We see that quality is a very important indicator for the percentage of reuse that we can do later on. And then you have reuse and repair. That's exactly what we are doing today. But of course, for us, it's also always a challenge to go higher up the ladder and to rethink our model. Can we maybe do renting of clothing, for example? And then in the last step, you have the recycling, what we are also investigating, because if there's a t-shirt and it's worn already like so many times and it comes to us and it has a hole and it's not really worthwhile to fix it anymore, okay, how can we make sure that this t-shirt can become yarn to become a t-shirt again afterwards? So the thinking in circles is for me the definition of circular economy, and also the combinations, like okay, it's so interesting that you can repair and then reuse or go directly to recycling, so it depends also on product.
Yeah, it's nice. I'm gonna repeat the hierarchy. So it's really reduce, reuse, recycle. Very nice hierarchy there. And also because a lot of people promoting recycling at first point, let's really, recheck what's the most beneficial option for circular economy is there. So going back to Herw, your organization, it's a merger between SST and Commotie, so really a merger of the social part and the circular and environmental part. Can you maybe tell us something about the journey leading up to Herw as an organization? What was this the first step? What will be the future for Herw?
I think the future for Herw is very bright, as we see that circular economy is been really picked up. About SST and Commotie merger, I think it was a really logical movement also. I know that it was not really easy. It has been difficult because, you put two worlds together. But now we're seeing that it's really working. That, for example, Ministry of Social Department, they just launched a new innovation call, a new growth call, where they are applying new social jobs. And they're applying it in the climate plan, so they are really coupling the social and the circular. And so the transition we did with Herw there has been proven really future-proof.
Okay, that's great. And if we go back to the reuse story, I think a lot of our users can also relate to the second-hand platforms and really the booming of those platforms, especially as well. I think during Corona, also a lot of fashion brands investing in their own reuse centers. Does that have any impact on your day-to-day operations at Kringwinkel?
Of course. I think that's a really interesting transition. We started with secondhand like 25 years ago, and then it was still like secondhand is for the poor people, and we don't really know if we can shop at Kringwinkel because we have enough money, so maybe not. And now we see that secondhand is like everywhere and becoming really mainstream. We also see that there's like the huge trend of online platforms, so where clothing gets sold also peer to peer. So you and I can just swap a shirt, and it's a really interesting evolution to also see from the Kringwinkel point of view, and certainly from the business development point of view. And I have to be honest. In the beginning, I was a bit like, "Whoa, okay, we have a lot of competition now. Is it competition? No, it's not, because we want local reuse." So in the beginning, we had to recalibrate a little bit. Like, okay, we have to start seeing this as part of a bigger picture. Like there's like a reuse movement or a circular movement here. And so that is working really good now, and now we are also actively reaching out to potential partners, or to see like, okay, how can we match this circular mission that you are doing to also our social mission that we are doing. And so it's a really it's a journey where we are still in, because our world is moving so fast, and we have still a lot of work to do, I think, especially in the digital field also, to catch up a little bit. But yeah, it's very interesting evolution.
So I'm also noting down that calling to the brands that maybe are active on our platform Ellie.Connect as well, to reach out to the actual pioneer in reuse, to Kringwinkel, to Herw, to help you with that as well. And what about the consumer side? Of course, if you see the success of the reuse markets, I would assume that consumer mindset has also changed. Can you confirm that indeed, and that it changes your activities?
Yeah.
And is it a certain type of consumer that's changing the mindset?
We see that indeed, that secondhand is not in the margin anymore. That it's
getting sexy.
It's getting a little bit sexy even.
You can use that word on a podcast.
And also what we see in our stores, and that's actually really cool, is that a lot of young people who are shopping now at Kringwinkel. And actually that is because they also want to have like an individuality. Yeah, they know that what they shop in the Kringwinkel, that no one else can find it anywhere else, because that's the Kringwinkel. There's just like one piece of everything. And so we see that indeed a lot of young people have found Kringwinkel. That's also something that we are trying to address more on social media. We have like the Kringfluencers. And then a second thing that we are noticing now, actually, we just launched also a customer survey and a news article about it, is that like that we have more buyers of secondhand, but we see that the most important reason to buy secondhand still is because of economical reasons. So I think it's also linked to inflation and to times where everything is getting very expensive, that some people just have to come to Kringwinkel or buy secondhand, because their budget otherwise wouldn't pass it through. So we have two reasons which are important. It's like the economical reasons, and then it's like to contribute to something better because of sustainability reasons, or because of the social employment mission that we have.
And it's good to combine both, because there's still, an option of investing in cheap, fast fashion there. So I think going Indeed. For the social and circular economy is a better choice for the consumer. Speaking win-win. From my point of view, it's a Herw.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about circular transition that is needed in the textile and fashion industry as well. Do you feel that the current tools, systems that are there today are adequate to support the shift? Or in case something is missing, what do you believe is missing?
I think the circular shift, it's a big challenge, and if I can speak for Kringwinkel, we are already a circular company from the heart, but I see that we are sometimes still struggling with, like, okay, for example, the textiles that we can't sell. Okay, how can we make sure it gets a durable second, third life? And so there, what's missing is actually focus. I think that we need to take the time and the means to focus on a certain product group, for example, because textiles is a different world than electronics, than furniture, and so every product group is a whole chain on itself. So that's what we're trying to learn now as a sector, also to keep our focus. And also to get a scale together, and I think that's in the circular. That's a challenge for us, but I think for the whole circular world, like, okay, how can we go from small pilots, from small initiatives, and how can we scale this up so that we can really make an impact and really recycle a lot of volume at once and make it like a durable business model that can go for years on.
Yeah, and there you gave a perfect kickoff, I think, to the next topic, which is relevant for us, is collaboration, of course. And you know, it's sometimes easier said than done. So as Herw is really the umbrella above the kringwinkels, the reuse centers, I can assume that they all have their own identity. How can you then make sure that collaboration is there and that you have one vision? How do you cope with that?
That's indeed an important factor in the circular economy, because we see that everything is going bigger and larger. So we as a sector, we need to be also as much as possible where needed one voice. So I think the sector, we work together already for a long time. So there's a habit of collaborating, as we now, I think last year we celebrated the 25th anniversary of our brand at Kringwinkel. But now I see also
thanks.
It's
a party time.
Yeah, we just launched.
I know what is going to serve.
Yeah, indeed. We just launched our new the upgrade of the brand, and we are very proud of it. But so what we also see is that, okay, maybe we should also enlarge this collaboration. I think that's also a bit the point of my job also. Like, we see that there's a tendency to collaborate more, and a very concrete example is also we had some Vlaio projects that we put together with you also.
Yes.
And where we get like a lot of kringwinkels who are in one project and who really decided, like, for example, for the waste streams of textiles, why don't we sort them out together? Why don't we do this in a communal infrastructure? Because if we all have to invest in this technology on ourselves, then it's not profitable at all. So we need to do this together. And we see this tendency in projects coming up, and so I think that's a very important role of Herw also to always spot like the synergies and to motivate, to put them together and to look for the red thread within these projects.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a very big challenge, but I think we are we're on a good way. Last year we also had a common strategy that was proposed to the sector, like the maximal local reuse, where 10 ambitions were defined, and it's now these ambitions that we are with the sector tackling together, and everything step by step, and as much as possible together.
Yeah, and I assume it comes with a mindset change, or do you feel that this open mindset, which is needed for collaboration, that it has always been there in your DNA, or is it still, a shift to make?
I think it will always be, it's always important to keep that in mind, that the open mindset is very important. Sometimes I also, I see with myself, like, oh no, these companies are also selling secondhand. Oh, it's competition. But then we have to work together. There's like a common goal. So I think it's something that you always have to have in the back of your head, like, okay, we have to do this together and step by step, and that really good agreements can also help with this open mindset. And also within the sector, what I try to do is always repeat, and always give the context, like, okay, this is us, but this is like the big world, and we always need to keep an eye on this big world, because the big world is going there, and if we don't watch out, we are going the other side. So repeating is the magic word.
Yeah, that's a good tip. What about this vision? Was this something that was crafted bottom up with the kringwinkels together, or is this something that was really top down initiated? How did the process work there?
It was not top down. We created a whole process because we saw, like I described the evolution earlier, like this retailer is going secondhand. We have Vinted coming up. We have a lot of things that are changing. We also see that circular economy, like we were once pioneers. Now it's everywhere. And we felt like in the sector that there were like unrest. Like, okay, some said we had to go left, some said we had to go right. And we felt like, okay, we need to capture this. And we need to have like a common strategy to position ourselves in this and to make sure that we can still create jobs within 30 years, because that's what we want, is reuse and the jobs. And so we sat together with the whole sector. It was like everyone who wanted to join could participate, and we hired a consultant also to help us with that, because we also knew like, okay, this is bigger than the Herw team. We need also some professional help in here. And so we really started with capturing a lot of information, like, okay, what is the market doing? What is our own workings, like in Kringwinkel, which product category costs how much, and what is our USP actually? What are we really, really good in? And so that's when we had a lot of discussions and talks about this. And then at the end, we got like a really big summary of every talks and every conclusions from this consultant. And then we at Herw tried to make a theory of change from it. I don't know if you know it.
Theory of change, that sounds amazing.
That's like something that all NGOs do. And what is a theory of change? That's a way how, if you're an NGO, you probably want to change the world and you want to change, make the world a better place. So what you have to do is you have to start from, okay, what change do you want to see within 5 years? And so for us, that was clear. Okay, we want maximal local reuse in Flanders, and we want to couple this with jobs. And so then, based on this strategy, we also derived from this ambition, we derived 10 action points that would all lead to this strategy of maximal local reuse. And I have to say that once we had these 10 ambitions, these 10 priorities, for me, it also brought a lot of rest, like, okay, this is what we are going to do. And maybe even more important, these things are also things that we are not going to do, because you always have scarce means and scarce time. So you have to pick your focus points. And that's what we are doing now with the sector. We are focusing on these 10 things, which is a big number even, but the picking is always difficult. And that's what we are following up now every year. Okay, how are we doing on these 10 ambitions? Do we have to adapt our strategy or not? And so, yeah, that's a really good way to go forward and to have like one vision within the sector.
Wow, that's great to hear. There's also a lot of private companies with this purpose of changing the world. So this is actually great. And then I wanted to talk about, collaboration. So you talked about internal collaboration with between the kringwinkels, between Herw, also your first steps. I don't know if it's your first steps, but into external collaboration with the Vlaio project, for instance. Is this something that you have been doing more? What is your ambition, on building external networks as well?
Yeah, I think that's something that we as a sector, we should start. We are already doing this, but that external networks, I really notice this now, how important it is. Like, for example, we also have a project around electronics. And I see that because we have these projects, we getting this network. We have, like, for example, a partner organizations, Repair and Share, where we work a lot with. And now it goes way easier for other projects also. And the same for textiles. We now know Florence. I'm now on your podcast. You guys went also on our congress. So it's like really important to really reinforce each other, because we have the same mission statement, actually, to have more circularity in the textiles landscape. So I think that is really helping us and the sector also to move in the right direction, and to be sure that if there's like relevant movement, that we are also part of this, and that we can also represent the social part in this whole transition.
Yeah, I totally agree. Me, myself, personally as an entrepreneur, I truly believe that every enterprise should be a social enterprise. That it's not just
Indeed.
a niche that is linked to organizations such as Herw. So definitely, and I feel a mindset shift there as well. So, but indeed, it's about creating synergies cross industry, open collaboration. So that is very important. So, but I feel that, you know, a lot of companies as well in the textile and fashion industry are still, you know, fighting some borders and trying, you know, to cope with open collaboration. Maybe do you have some advice or tips for these companies how to tackle that?
Yeah, that I can imagine that it's not as easy for everyone as as for Kringwinkel. But one thing that I learned from a colleague who actually said it to me, because sometimes I also want to go really fast, like, yes, we have to do this and it has to be there next year, and even faster if possible. And she said to me, like, okay, the grass is not going to grow faster if you pull on it. And I was like, that was like a moment for me, like, yes, okay, that's actually true. So I would really recommend to like have your vision and to also give it time. Like it's really a big change what we are going through, and I also see like things are changing. Another book tip, Jan Rotmans, Embrace the Chaos. He also said,
Florence, did you know that down?
He also said in the beginning of his book, like, he's now 40 years in his career, and sometimes he gets like really sad and depressed, like, oh, nothing is changing, it's not going fast enough. But then he thinks about 30 years ago, when there's like no green energy, there was like no one talking about circular economy, there's like nothing, and he was the only one. And so now he sees like, okay, we're actually going in a direction. It just takes a lot of time, but we are actually going this direction. So I could give this tip, like, okay, don't panic if it's going too slow, but just trust the process also.
Okay, that's a good tip. Just step by step, and have patience.
And celebrate success.
Feel the change, celebrate success. I totally agree. I think another facilitator for circularity will be technology. I think as well, one of your favorite topics to talk about. What do you feel technology could mean for a circular economy? How can it enable it? And do you have some examples from that, from your own experience?
Yeah, I think technology can be indeed an enabler for circular economy. I think in the first instance to capture more data. Because that's also a huge challenge for us as Kringwinkel, like how to know what is where, what is coming in, what is being repaired, what not, which brands are really reusable, what not. And maybe, for example, for our sector, it's always like a bit paradoxical, because we don't want to use technology to eliminate jobs, what is often done. So it's always like, okay, how are we going to use technology to support our Kringwinkel colleagues? And so one example is in the end of life, if we see that something is not reusable, okay, we have like this textile, but often we do not know like which material is it, and you need to know which material it is to recycle it. So now we're doing a pilot in Turnhout, actually, where we have technology who is scanning every piece of clothing to know, okay, which kind of material is it, and is then helping the employee to drop it in the right basket. So that's one of the applications, I think, for what technology could help us. Another very important and interesting project that we're doing is we are actually investigating if AI technology can also help us to make the reuse decision. Like I explained before, like we have this sorting lines where people do the quality check. But maybe sometimes it's difficult to know, like, okay, will this be sold in the store, or maybe it has to go online. So now we are seeing like, okay, maybe there's like technology who can capture this product, and who can say like, okay, this is selling well online, or this is selling well in the store, and that they can help the person make the decision, and this way we can even get more reuse there. So I think in the sorting process, technology can really enable maximal reuse too.
Okay, nice to hear. I think we should invite you in a few years again to talk about these projects.
Yeah,
very
indeed.
interesting. So what about the future for Herwin? How do you see growth, say, on the long term, 2030, 2050? What are your ambitions?
I think our ambitions at Herwin are always the same, and it's like the creating of more jobs in the social circular economy. So that's a very good one where we're still working on, and I think the circular economy can be an opportunity to create more jobs. And for Kringwinkel, I think also a big ambition should be to just double the reuse that we do today, and always find innovative ways to do this. For example, now we are the sales channel, but maybe we can be the facilitator of resale for other retailers. Or maybe we need to work together with one of the online platforms to capture the stuff that is not sold and capture it in our own channels. So I think, the growth ambition is in the jobs and in the reuse for Kringwinkel.
Okay, amazing. So we hope at Ellie.Connect we can help you with that as well.
I'm sure.
We're approaching the end of our very interesting podcast. We heard a little bit about your plans, ambitions, futures, goals, and of course the importance of collaboration there. Now you have the opportunity to reach out as well to the Ellie.Connect community. Is there something where they can help you on your journey? If so, then I think this is the perfect moment to reach out to our listeners as well.
Yeah, of course, great. Yeah, we have a transformative journey for us as Kringwinkel and as Flanders in a whole. So I think we cannot do this alone. And if there's people listening who, for example, can help us with recycling the waste streams that we have today, they can always reach out to me. Or when there's retailers or producers listening and they want to do a fun collection with Kringwinkel, or they want to do a take-back service, we can always be the partner for them. So they can always reach out to me.
Wow, that's great. I think there's already a lot of actors that could act upon that. Great. So to finish our talk, I would like you to end with some kind of, motivational message to everyone who wants to, who is already a change maker and who wants to become a change maker, but who is sometimes struggling day to day. Do you have a message for them personally?
Yeah, I think there is this tip of don't be too impatient. I know it's like the fault of every business developer or innovation person, like thinking it has to be there like next month. But I already know. I saw like, okay, every work you're doing, and sometimes you don't see the results directly, but there's always an indirect effect, and it's going in this one direction. It's going slow, but it goes, and I think we need everyone to steer our society and the economy in this direction. So we just have to keep pushing or pulling, and just don't give up, and don't be too impatient.
Great, thank you for that. So that brings us, unfortunately, to the end of this episode. Thank you, Jolien, for your very inspiring messages and sharing your interesting ideas on the future of social and circular economy. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. If you want to re-listen to the episodes, you can do that on our social media channels as well as on our platform Ellie.Connect.com. Please subscribe if you have not done so today, and please leave a comment or a like. We really love to hear from you. I'm very inspired, and thank you, Jolien, again for that. And let's hope we can help you on your journey. But in any case, as you gave the message, let's take small steps, but let's take them together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Julie, for the invite. It's really nice to be here.
Thank you. Bye.